What's going on, guys, and welcome to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for February 16th, 2024. I'm Graham Jason Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. We had a pretty good edition of SmackDown on Friday night, I thought, following up on the events of last week. We had more Elimination Chamber qualifiers, setting the stage for Elimination Chamber next weekend. The men's match is set. The women's match has one more spot left to fill, which will be filled via a Battle Royal this coming Monday on Raw. But it's funny, I mentioned on Twitter last night, and I was able to watch SmackDown in its entirety live for the first time in a very long time. I had nothing going on Friday night. Amazing feeling. Was able to watch SmackDown live in full. It was awesome. I can't do that every week. Typically, I have stuff going on Fridays and other stuff going on and whatever, and I usually kind of catch up after the fact. But I was able to watch SmackDown live this week, and it was cool. But I mentioned on Twitter last night during the show that the Elimination Chamber match for the men, and that wasn't really the central focal point of the show, I get it. We'll get into that in a second. The big headline from the show with Rock showing up and Roman Reigns and Rock officially cementing the heel turn, joining the Bloodline. More on that in a moment. The Elimination Chamber match for the men consists entirely of SmackDown superstars and one Raw superstar. That's it. Drew McIntyre is the only Raw representation in that matchup for a shot at Raw's World Heavyweight Championship. Now, I know a Raw guy is challenging a SmackDown guy for SmackDown's top title at WrestleMania. I get it. That match makes more sense. I never really had any doubt, even he was the first person to qualify. I had no doubt that Drew McIntyre was winning that men's chamber, and if he doesn't, I'd be shocked. But if there was ever any doubt before, there certainly isn't now, because I do not expect LA Knight or Randy Orton or Bobby Lashley, or anyone else from Friday nights to challenge Rollins at Mania for that World Heavyweight Championship. But like I said, that really wasn't the central focal point of the show. We had a lot more Elimination Chamber qualifiers, one squash match. The biggest and best thing on this show was that Rock promo. I don't want to call it polarizing the same way that I called the segment on SmackDown 2 weeks ago polarizing. That was certainly polarizing. The funny thing about that was that my article about that segment on SmackDown 2 weeks ago was featured on Raw. If you follow me on socials, I posted about it. They featured that on Raw, not this past week, but the week before that, coming off of the polarizing segment on SmackDown from 2 weeks ago. And they featured a blurb from my article in the intro, but they took out the word polarizing. This is before they changed course to Roman and Cody at Mania. This is when it was still kind of looking like it would be Rock and Roman. They took out the word polarizing in my article, which is pretty fucking funny. Not my article on the website. The blurb and the snapshot of my article with the Bleacher Report headline that was featured on Raw that Monday, which is pretty fucking funny. But anyway, as far as it goes with the polarizing reaction to last night's promo, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people, there were a decent amount of people that did not like the Rock promo, and we'll get into it. And I understand why. For me personally, I thought it was fucking fun. I thought it was a blast, a great. I can't even really say trip down memory lane for me personally. I was not watching WWE. I was not watching wrestling 20 years ago. I did not start watching wrestling until 2008. I made that quite clear in the past, in reviews and videos and post articles, whatever, podcasts. So I was not watching back then. So this is really my first live experience of a heel Rock. We have not had heel Rock since 2003, 2 decades ago. And we got him back last night. He was kind of in his Nation of Domination 98 Rocky phase. He was in his Hollywood Rock phase as well last night, kind of rattling off the hits, the best of heel Rocky from 20, 25 years ago. But listen, I don't give a shit. It was great. I thought it was really entertaining. Can he pull that off every week? Probably not. But I thought they did a great job of building to that throughout the show, saving it for last. And they ran out of time, so he probably would have gone even longer if they didn't have to get off directly. He definitely went overtime as it was, which we'll talk about, but he definitely would have gone even longer than he did had they not had that hard stop at 10 due to the news airing on Fox right after SmackDown. But we start the show with an Elimination Chamber qualifier for the men's matchup. Kevin Owens taking on Dirty Dominic Mysterio. This was going to tell the tale of the other men's match later on in the night. If Owens lost the match here via Logan Paul interference or a Logan Paul distraction or whatever, then I kind of figured, okay, Logan Paul probably won't win against The Miz later on. And Logan Paul losing to The Miz while Logan Paul is United States champion definitely is not ideal. Logan Paul should not be beaten one-on-one until Mania when he loses that championship to hopefully, ideally, LA Knight. But if that were to happen, whatever. That would set up Owens and Logan Paul one-on-one for the Chamber, rematch from the Rumble for the United States Championship. They have not had any interaction on SmackDown since 2 weeks ago, when Logan Paul appeared in the post-Rumble edition of SmackDown, and Owens made it pretty clear that he was not done with Logan Paul. But they did not interact last week, and they did not interact this week either. So I hope they didn't drop the feud. I mean, listen, I don't want Owens to beat Logan Paul for the belt, but they should probably pay off that program. Maybe the Roman Reigns, Rock, Cody stuff kind of messed up their plans. The same thing with the CM Punk promo, or the CM Punk injury. I don't know if Punk getting hurt. I don't know if SmackDown superstars were going to be in the Chamber before Punk got hurt. When Punk got hurt, and they now they need kind of Drew to win, they need other top talent in there. They put in the entire SmackDown fucking roster, it feels like, and that's fine. My point is, we're supposed to get Logan and Owens again at Elimination Chamber one-on-one. They will interact again in this Chamber match, but not one-on-one. It'll be inside the Chamber itself. But Kevin Owens did advance here in what was a pretty good match. Nothing really out of the ordinary about the match itself, but the crowd was into it. Owens is really over as a babyface. Dominic is obviously really over as a heel. So the dynamic was great. The finish I liked, with R-Truth coming out at ringside and Dominic going over to him and saying, hey, go get me a chair, because you're a part of the Judgment Day, right? Go get me a chair. And R-Truth was like, no, you guys were pretty adamant on Monday night that I'm not part of the Judgment Day. And then Dominic was like, no, Truth, you're a part of the Judgment Day. Like, help me out, go get a chair, let's take down Kevin Owens together, blah, blah, blah. And then Truth, for the first time since this storyline started, kind of remained rooted where he was and said, listen, I'm not moving, I'm not helping you out, I'm not part of the Judgment Day. You guys made that pretty clear on Monday night. So I thought that was funny. Owens takes advantage of the distraction, beats Dominic. Not that Dominic really needed to be distracted, but it did further the Truth, Judgment Day stuff they've been doing on Raw now for a while. So I like that. Owens advances. Correct outcome there. The next Women's Elimination Chamber qualifier match, with the winner earning a shot at Rhea Ripley's. And let's face it, Rhea Ripley is not losing that Women's World Championship at Elimination Chamber to Nia Jax. The winner of this match will face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania for the Women's World Championship. This qualifier was Tiffany Stratton against Zelina Vega. Now, listen, I really like Zelina Vega. I think she's had a great this past year in WWE. One thing I will say, that what I liked on this show, one thing I didn't like and what I did like, I liked on the show in relation to this match and the other matches on the show, they showed everyone that was wrestling their 2K24 ratings, what they're going to be rated in 2K24. I like that. What I did not like was that Zelina Vega, and she's not 100 by any means, but they showed her rating. She's like a 72. This is a woman that, granted, has not won a title yet in WWE. I mean, she won the tag titles, and she was Queen of the Ring a few years ago. But it's not like she was the SmackDown Women's Champion last year. But still, she had a very good this past 2023. She was a part of the LWO. She got really over in that role. She faced Rhea Ripley in a fun match at Backlash for the Women's World Championship last year. I'm pretty sure she was in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match as well. She's been all over SmackDown. I think she challenged at one point for the WWE Women's Championship against Io Sky, if I'm not mistaken, at one point late last year as well. The lower rating for Zelina is so fucking, that's so disrespectful. I know, too, because I talked to her at the 2K24 launch event over Rumble weekend. And she was like, listen, I just want a better rating than last year. And then, I don't know if it's it might be either as bad, if not worse, than last year, which makes no fucking sense. I feel so bad for that woman. My whole point is that Zelina's had a great this past year. She was not going to win here. Tiffany just arrived on SmackDown. She's the newcomer. She's the hot hand that you put in the matchup. She's not going to win the Chamber match, but you have her interact with the Beckys and the Biancas and the Livs and people like that. So her advancing was the right call here. Fine match, not the best match, and I didn't think the other women's qualifier in the show was all that great either, but I thought this was a fine match. Tiffany wins, advances. The moonsault looked great. The problem was that I think she hit her knees. It's really all about the timing and the positioning of how you hit the moonsault. I'm not a wrestler myself, obviously, but if you land improperly, I mean, Charlotte's moonsaults look fucking terrible most of the time, but Tiffany's always look great. It's well executed. She hits it beautifully. In the air, she looks like she's fucking floating. But here on the landing, sometimes she kind of not always gets it, doesn't get all of it. And here it looked like she landed right on Zelina's arm. So hopefully Zelina's okay. I'm sure she is. But other than that, it looked great. Tiffany wins, as she should have. Tiffany, as I've said before, has a very bright future on SmackDown. She won her debut match 2 weeks ago against Michin. She won here as well. Like I said, she's not winning the chamber match, but if she can have a breakout, impressive outing in that matchup, then that's key. And hopefully in that matchup, she can interact with Bianca, maybe eliminate her, and set up a match for Mania. Because if you don't do that match in Mania, unless Bianca, I don't know, if Bianca wins the chamber, and she very well could, to get Bianca and Rhea at Mania, I just don't know what you do with Becky Lynch. And I don't really want Becky, Bianca, and Rhea in a triple threat. If it was Rhea, Becky, and Liv in a triple threat, that might make more sense. But then if you make it a four-way, that's just a fucking mess. So I think Becky wins, and that's it. I don't think Liv wins. I mean, there's a chance that she could. I'm not really sensing that. But I think Tiffany can go in there, have a great showing, potentially eliminate Bianca, and set up a Mania match between the two. And as I've said before, if you were to do that, that would be like the first, I think, singles, non-title, non-gimmick women's match in Mania history. Fucking 40 years and we've never had a singles, feud between two women going into Mania that wasn't for a championship and didn't have some sort of dumb stipulation as far as a lumberjill match or a fucking bras and panties match or something stupid like that, or the dumbass pillow fight from 20 years ago. Like an actual match between two women that had no dumb stipulation that was not over a championship. And that could be the first one, and I'd be definitely down for that. Throughout the show as well, we had other vignettes. I might as well mention this here before I forget, and other backstage segments. Bayley and Dakota did interact on the show, with Dakota confronting Bayley backstage. Bayley's still not 100% sure of Dakota and where her allegiance lies. I still think Dakota teases, she already has teased, but convinces Bayley that she's joining her against Damage CTRL. And then she turns on her, she's cleared, she attacks Bayley, and that sets up Bayley and Dakota to be right before WrestleMania. Probably, I thought they might do it at Chamber. It's probably a little too... I mean, they already taped SmackDown for next week. We probably would have found out by now if Dakota turned on Bayley on next Friday SmackDown. I mean, it's possible, but then you have to set up a match for less than 24 hours later? Probably not. So, they had an interaction on the show. Io Sky had a great vignette alongside the Kabuki Warriors where she addressed Bayley leaving the group, them trying to attack her, saying that, yeah, you started Damage CTRL 2-3 years ago, whatever it was, back at SummerSlam 2022. This is not the same Io Sky from that pay-per-view, she said. She said that I've made Damage CTRL stronger than it was before, which is true, because it was a fucking loser faction for the longest time. And she also said that, listen, Dakota, you can't leave the group without expecting there to be consequences. So they're kind of teasing going after Dakota, and I still think she'll realign with them, and that's been part of the plan the entire time. We'll soon see. But I really thought that was a great promo. We also saw the OC backstage as well. AJ kind of pissed off about not qualifying for Chamber. At the end of the day, it's his own fucking fault. I mean, him and LA Knight were still going at it last week on SmackDown. LA Knight specifically, inadvertently, cost AJ a spot in the Chamber like a fucking heel would. And AJ did not return the favor on Monday's Raw when LA Knight qualified by beating Ivar. So, I mean, he's just an idiot. But he was backstage doing the whole dark AJ thing. And the OC kind of were trying to talk to him, and that's what they've been doing for months now, to no avail. And AJ slapped Carl Anderson, and they got into it. So the OC appears to be over, or at least on the brink of breaking up. And like I said, it's been that way for months now. Anderson and Gallows, I don't think I've had a match on TV in probably since fucking September. How anyone could possibly care about these two at this point, I have no idea. Just break up the group, have AJ go off on his own, or just turn the entire group, which they're probably not going to do. And even if they did, who gives a shit? I was in favor of them reuniting OC. I thought it'd be cool for AJ, give him his old act back. They got Michin in there. She's doing something cool. The group has done absolutely nothing since they've been back, since late 2022. Just break them up at this point. Who even gives a shit, you know? They might be back on the chopping block. Maybe Triple H would feel bad about letting them go again. At this point, who could possibly give a fuck about Anderson and Gallows? Honestly. So that was another segment we saw backstage. We might be getting Anderson and Styles probably sometime soon on SmackDown. Maybe as quickly as next week. I don't know. We also saw Drew McIntyre interact with LA Knight here backstage on the show because they're both in the Chamber match. And Knight kind of took exception to the fact that, we're saying that Knight hasn't won anything, and Knight saying that you haven't had any real accomplishments in a couple of years now. So they kind of went back and forth, setting up a match between the two for next week's SmackDown. So the first time I believe in WWE, those two have gone one-on-one. They had a whole feud, and I was not the only one tweeting about this last night during the show. They had a whole feud in TNA almost a decade ago. I mean, the fact it's been almost 10 years, I feel fucking old just saying that. But when Drew Galloway, now Drew McIntyre, obviously, went to TNA 10 years ago, it was alongside LA Knight, who was then Eli Drake, and Camacho, who is now, I forgot his name in New Japan, but it was Camacho in WWE. He went to TNA, and then he went on to become one half of the Guerrillas of Destiny in New Japan. And I think he's still there now. But yeah, they had a whole feud. When that group kind of broke up later on in 2015, they had a feud. And I think Eli Drake, I don't know if he beat Drew, but Drew definitely beat him in the end. Eli Drake went on to become Drew won the TNA title the following year. Eli Drake, now LA Knight, won the TNA title the year after that. He became a pretty big singles success in TNA, did the now LA Knight. And he had a real breakout run in TNA before going to NWA and now WWE. So they have a lot of history. They didn't acknowledge that here, I don't believe, but there is a lot of history between those two. I want to see a full-fledged feud between these two guys. I mean, they're giving away a lot of Drew matches right now. A lot of matches they could be saving for after WrestleMania. They're giving away Drew and Cody on Monday. They're giving away Drew and LA Knight on Friday of next week. I mean, I'm hoping he's not leaving. I mean, they're giving us a lot of great Drew matches and stories on the way out. I hope that's not a sign that he is indeed leaving. I do think he re-signs at the end of the day. I mean, how could he not? Hopefully they give him the fucking World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania, and that maybe convinces him to stay and re-sign, knowing the creative is better now that he's a heel, blah, 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 and they pay him what he's worth. Hopefully it's just part of the angle. He did re-sign a while ago, and they're just trying to work people into thinking, oh, yeah, he hasn't re-signed yet, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But, I mean, I'm looking forward to that match next week. I wasn't really planning on giving a shit about that SmackDown. I'm not reviewing that SmackDown next week. It's the final SmackDown before Elimination Chamber. The pay-per-view airs at 5 o'clock in the morning next Saturday. The earliest of all the international pay-per-views we've had to date since they started doing them a few years ago. I mean, they did do Super Showdown 5 years ago at 5 o'clock in the morning, but no one gave a fuck about Super Showdown 5 years ago. This is a much bigger deal than that. So I'm not doing a SmackDown review next week. I'm not doing, most likely, a SmackDown Lowdown review either. And with that being said, I will be watching the show, though, and I do want to see LA Knight and Drew and how they kind of match up and what that match looks like next week on SmackDown. The other match here on the show, Authors of Pain quickly squashing Javier Bernal and Bo Morris, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Both from NXT. Bernal is obviously an NXT TV regular. Morris is not. I have no fucking clue who Bo Morris is. He's not on NXT TV. He's not even on Level Up. So I don't know where they got him from. Maybe he's from the area. I don't know. They were in Utah last night. But Bernal plays his role really well. We've seen him on WWE TV before doing this sort of stuff. He's been on Main Event, but I'm talking like on Raw and SmackDown as a jobber. He's appeared on the brands before. You would think they would just use like a random prospect from the PC and not someone that's been on NXT TV a lot, but regardless, this was a pretty straightforward dominant squash for AOP, and they're calling them Authors of Pain. I didn't think they would, because when they were last in WWE a few years ago, they renamed them AOP. They did not call them Authors of Pain anymore, and they just called them specifically AOP. When they got brought back a few weeks ago, they were still calling them AOP, which they are, but like their full name, which is what AOP stands for, is Authors of Pain. And I thought they weren't going to call them that again either, but they did here, which is cool. So they quickly dominated their opponents. This was designed to set them up for a match next week on SmackDown as part of the whole Bobby Profits Final Testament feud. They're going to be facing Profits next week on SmackDown. What's funny about that match is that those two teams have a lot of history from NXT. They didn't have a full-fledged feud, but it may have been 2 years in a row. I remember the Profits being bumped from the Dusty Classic at least one time by AOP. They had a couple of matches in NXT. AOP rarely lost in NXT, so I don't think the Profits ever actually beat them. But they did have a handful of matches, and AOP won every single fucking one. And I think they might have been both. The matches they had might have been in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Definitely in 2017. Definitely in 2018. I know they had a match in 2018 that AOP won. I'm like, why did AOP win that? They did not need to win that. They're main roster bound. I don't understand that. They may have had a match in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic in 2017 as well, if they did it that year, but I don't know if they did. I know they did it in 2019 and 2018. I don't know if they did a Dusty Classic in 2017, because AOP won it in 2016. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying the two teams have more history than beyond what we've been seeing on SmackDown as of late. The second men's qualifier on the show, Logan Paul taking on The Miz. a rematch from SummerSlam 2022. I thought there was a chance Miz could win, but when Logan Paul, or rather Kevin Owens advanced earlier in the show, I'm thinking, Logan Paul's not losing here. Like, why would they have Kevin Owens advance but not Logan Paul? So they had a pretty good match. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed their first match. I like how they played off that first match with Logan Paul hitting the skull-crushing finale, or the Paul-crushing finale, whatever they called it, on Miz, a lot like he did at SummerSlam a year and a half ago. And Paul won that match that way. Miz kicked out here. The finish I thought was a bit lame. They're still doing the dumb brass knuckles thing. They do it in every Logan Paul match. It's like, we need to give this a fucking break. If Logan Paul is going to be wrestling more on TV, which I'm all for, then he does not need to be doing the same finish to every match that he has. This marked his first TV match in WWE that was not on a premium live event. So I want to see more of Logan Paul wrestling on TV. That's great and all, but they can't be running back the same brass knuckle spot every fucking time. And it's with this random guy that we have no fucking clue who he is. He's obviously not designed or intended to be a television character, but it's like, it's just some guy named, like, I forgot his name, Andy or something? I don't remember, but I'm like, we've seen the guy before, but we never actually see him beyond this one spot. It's so fucking annoying, which I know is the point, he's a heel, but it's like, can we get more creative with this? He never had a chance to use it. He ended up beating Miz with like not a Uranagi slam, it was like an STO. And I'm like, okay, that kind of looked lame. So I don't know if that's Logan Paul's finisher. Like, it was weird. I haven't seen him win a match with that before, because he usually wins with the brass knuckles. He didn't do that here. He went with a random STO instead. But they got plenty of time. Logan Paul won. I like that. Best wishes to Maurice, by the way. Miz didn't post, but Maurice did. That kind of concerning post on Instagram about a week ago, talking about all the stuff that she has to go through with her body right now, like pre-cancer scare. Like, it's a lot to kind of get into, but best wishes to her and the whole family. That's probably why Miz wasn't on Raw this week. And they're not going to be at Elimination Chamber. There's really no need for him to be. I still think Miz and Truth win the tag titles of WrestleMania from Judgment Day. There's no need to rush into it. Miz will be on Raw this Monday, though. He will be teaming with Truth and I think DIY against the entire Judgment Day on Monday. So they're doing that match. But yeah, best wishes to Miz and Maurice and the entire family. So I like that match for what it was. We had the second women's qualifier as well, Naomi and Alba Fire. I didn't like this match as much as I did Stratton and Vega, which in and of itself also had a few awkward moments. They just didn't really seem to click. I thought these two had a fine match. It wasn't bad by any means, but it's like, I don't know, they didn't really have great chemistry, kind of awkward at points. The crowd didn't give a fuck about Alba Fire, and I really love Kaylee Ray. She's terrific, but the main roster crowd has been given zero incentive to give a shit about this woman on Friday nights. I mean, the Isla Dawn tag team, they work well together, but like that tag team division is so desolate, and they've gotten one tag team title opportunity. I mean, I guess two, actually. They lost to Ronda and Shayna last summer, but they also lost to Kabuki Warriors about a month ago. Pretty fucking quickly, too. No one gives a shit about this woman, and that's a shame. She's really, really good. But I thought she and Naomi had a fine match. Not great, but it was okay. Naomi winning was the right choice. It was supposed to be Naomi and Shotzi, but Shotzi got hurt on Tuesday at the NXT TV taping. I don't know if they'll still air the match, because they made it pretty clear here Shotzi got hurt wrestling on Tuesday, even though what we saw on television, she didn't wrestle there. Confusing to explain, I know, but they taped the match for next week with her and Lyra Valkyria. She got hurt in that match. That hasn't aired yet. And I don't know if they're still promoting that. They might still air it anyway. I'm not really sure. But she got hurt in that match, seriously hurting her knee. She's going to be out for a while. That sucks for her. She was never going to win this qualifier, but I thought that was worth noting. I don't know how good of a match Naomi and Shotzi would have had anyway, but it sucks that she got hurt. Nick Aldis came out after that on the stage to announce SmackDown's newest acquisition, NXT Tag Team Champion Braun Breaker. So I think he had the belt. They showed a segment on SmackDown last night backstage that was with, it was Aldis, Jade, and Braun. They were all looking over contracts, and that was when Tiffany, Bianca, and Liv all kind of got into it with each other, and Jade was like, "You're going to interrupt my big moment, blah, blah, blah." They didn't announce that Jade signed with SmackDown, so I still think she's going to Raw. She's probably going to end up on Raw after Elimination Chamber and face Nia at WrestleMania. That's my prediction, and that'll be her first singles match in WWE. That just seems to me to make the most sense. But because I feel like if they were going to, you don't want to announce two signings at once anyway, but I feel like what would have enticed Breaker to sign on the dot on this show, but not Jade. So I still think Jade, spread the wealth. SmackDown just got Tiffany, Naomi. They don't need Jade as well. They can bring Jade to Raw. Hold off on Bianca and Jade doing anything with each other until down the road. But yeah, I think Jade goes to Raw. So Braun Breaker is officially SmackDown bound. The funny thing is, like I just said, he's currently one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions. That's why I thought they've been showing Braun on SmackDown for weeks now, since right after the Rumble. I thought he was going to lose that tag team title match on Tuesday to the family alongside Baron Corbin, but they actually won. And I was happy about that because it was a fun match. They work great together. Corbin and Breaker are a great team. No, I don't think they bring the team to SmackDown. No, I don't think they should. I think Corbin's great, but there's no reason to saddle Corbin, or rather Breaker, with fucking... The last time we saw Baron Corbin on the main roster, for those who don't watch NXT, saw him as a fucking loser. So there's really no need to bring them up as a tag team together right now. Can they interact down the road? Absolutely. Should they interact down the road? Absolutely. Not right now. Now, I don't know if that means they're going to relinquish the tag titles. I would hope not. I mean, it's better than him not winning the belt at all, I would say. But it would seem pretty pointless to put the belts on him and Corbin just to drop it a week later. So, I mean, maybe he'll fulfill his duties with NXT through Stand and Deliver WrestleMania weekend. He'll drop the belts there. Doesn't have to be pinned. Makes sense. He's been pinned a lot in NXT anyway in the last year, so I'm not really sure it matters. But, you know, it's interesting that he's going to SmackDown, though. I thought it would be the other way around. I thought we would see Breaker on Raw and Cargill on SmackDown. I like the way it shook up instead because, you know, like I said, SmackDown just got Naomi and Tiffany. They don't really need Jade as well. They have Bayley and Io doing their thing. Charlotte will be back at some point. She'll probably go to wherever Andrade is. Andrade, if he stays on Raw coming out of Mania in the draft, she'll probably go to Raw. With Jade at some point, assuming Jade doesn't get drafted back to SmackDown either. But with Breaker, it's interesting because it looked like Breaker might be taking the spot that was supposed to be occupied by Brock Lesnar. Now, I don't know what to believe from Dave Meltzer these days, but he had reported right after the Rumble that Breaker's spot in the Rumble was supposed to be Brock. And that would make sense. I don't know if Dominic fucking Mysterio was going to eliminate Brock from the Royal Rumble. I know we said, Dominic and Brock was the plan for Elimination Chamber. I don't know about that. I mean, maybe it would have been. I have no fucking clue. I guess it would have been a quick squash for Brock on that show to get him on the show. I guess. I don't know. Breaker's not facing Dominic Mysterio at Elimination Chamber, obviously. Maybe they can announce a quick debut match. I mean, I think he's making his in-ring debut next week on SmackDown, so it's not even like they're saving it for Elimination Chamber in Australia. But I thought he might face Gunther at Mania because that was the plan for Brock, presumably, which I 1,000% believe that they were setting up Brock and Gunther for Mania. Gunther, this leaves him without an obvious opponent. There are people on Raw that he can face. Sami Zayn. Chad Gable at this point is just a joke. I mean, the guy's not even on the show barely, as it is right now, so I don't think that's happening. Sami Zayn's probably the most likely choice. Andrade is another option. So it's not Breaker, though. Breaker beating Corbin, or rather Gunther at Mania for the belt, I would have been perfectly fine with. It might have been too much too soon, sure, but the guy's going to be a big deal either way, so it doesn't really matter to me. But that's not happening now. So, interesting to know. We then get to the main event segment here. The Rock coming out after the rest of the Bloodline did. Roman came out, kind of did the prelude promo, talking about the Cody thing and blah, blah, blah. But what people were really waiting for was The Rock. And they need to be careful, as other people have said, of not having Rock overshadow Roman. Unless that's the plan. If that's the plan, then great. If that's not the plan, then they need to be careful. I think there's a very good chance. There's a lot of different directions they can go. I think all roads do at some point lead to Rock and Roman having a singles match. I do not believe for a single second that we are not getting Rock and Roman at some point. Maybe not at Mania this year or in a triple threat. I feel like that'd be dumb. I feel like that'd be very dumb, actually. When you can easily save it for a one-on-one scenario next year. Now, the big question is, because Rock in his promo here at one point said, I'm going to make sure you walk out of Mania a loser. And they kind of showed him in the shot with the Bloodline, and it looked like he was pointing at Roman Reigns. Now, was that just a coincidence, or was that a mistake, or was that intentional? We don't know. I don't think it was intentional, but people are really reading into it as if it was, and there's a decent chance that it could be. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying you're dumb for thinking that, that was definitely on purpose. I don't think it was intentional, but there is the chance that it could have been. And the reason I say that is a lot of people probably are thinking as well, there is the chance they go in the direction of Rock turning on Roman at the show, whether it be like in subtle fashion or on purpose. And when I say that, I'm saying as if Rock could like say to the rest of the Bloodline, they listen to Roman or they listen to Rock but not Roman. And Rock says, Solo, Jimmy, Heyman, to the back you go. Rock should be able to, or Roman should be able to do this on his own. You guys do not need to be out here. And in the process, it cost Roman the championship. Or he could just do it on purpose, make it pretty clear as day, and have Rock just be like, hey guys, fuck you, Bloodline. I was just joining you, and my entire plan with Cody the entire time was to turn on Roman, destroy the Bloodline from within, and cost you the championship. He could turn on Rock or turn on Roman right then and there at that show. That is very possible. Listen, I'm fine with most of those scenarios. I don't really want Rock to go in there like it's Mania 27, Rock bottom Roman Reigns, and then Cody covers him or hits the cross. I don't like that. I know that's what Owens and Zayn were going to do at Mania last year, but the focus in that moment was not on Owens and Zayn. They already had their moment in the tag team title match the night before. The focus was on Cody Rhodes and him hopefully winning, and he obviously didn't. If Rock bottoms Roman and Cody capitalizes and wins the championship, the focus immediately goes to Rock and Roman, and that should not happen to Cody. I'm kind of content with most outcomes here, provided that Cody wins. And it's funny that people think, oh, it's because you're such a big Cody fan. Like, I've gotten comments on these videos and on Twitter, oh, what a big Cody mark you are. It's not the fact that I'm a Cody mark. If you've been watching these videos long enough or listening to me long enough or been seeing my work long enough, I fucking hated Cody's run in AEW towards the end. And I've always been a big Cody fan. I've been a big Cody fan since fucking 2008. But I'm a big fan of, The Rock too and Roman Reigns and all the shit that they're doing. It's not that I'm a fan of any one of these people. I'm a fan of what makes sense. And Roman has got to lose at Mania. He should have lost last year. I say that every single week. It's never any less true. But it needs to happen this year. Anyone costing Rhodes the match, whether it be Rock costing Cody, is stupid. Rollins costing Cody is even worse. I've seen people speculate that. That would be fucking stupid. It would literally be the same finish as last year, except instead of Solo, it would be Seth. What a dumb direction to go on there. No thanks. We just run back Cody and Seth from 2 years ago? No, that's dumb. It's dumb. So, Cody's got to win. You can have Rock just start beating up Solo at ringside. That would be okay. And then save the physicality between Rock and Roman for next year or closer to WrestleMania 41 or whatever. I don't think they do the match at SummerSlam. I guess they could later on this year. I would save it for Mania next year. Really get a year out of it. Listen, I think it would be way more intriguing if Roman still loses, obviously. But Rock stays with the Bloodline. And it's more along the lines of what I said earlier, where he either tells the rest of the Bloodline to go to the back, or his interference kind of backfires and costs Brody. He doesn't help Cody specifically, but this is a genuine heel turn from The Rock, and he stays heel. And he's not a heel for a month. He's a heel for the next fucking year. And Roman is the babyface. They could do heel Roman and babyface Rock, but the only thing with that, and I want to see the match, I want to see the feud. The issue with that, though, Roman's going to win either way, as he should. I'm not debating that. But if you have heel Roman beat babyface Rock, what is really accomplished there? If you switch the roles, rather, it would be a great way to kick off babyface Roman, which is inevitable anyway. Once heel Roman beats babyface Rock, what is there left for him to do? Aside from go back after the title, and that would be fucking awful. Roman should not even sniff the title scene after he, loses the championship, hopefully in Mania 40, for a very long time. I mean, I don't want to say ever again. He definitely will at some point again down the road. But he should not sniff the belt for a while, especially as a part-timer. No thanks. He's already held the belt for almost 4 years. We could take a break from the Roman era of him on top holding gold. So I would rather see Roman go babyface, get exiled from his own group. Rock kicks him out. The other Bloodline members listen to Rock and not Roman, which is why I'm not really upset about Roman kind of taking a backseat to Rock the last couple of weeks, because it kind of feels like that might be the direction they're going in, where Roman also ultimately is the one that people feel sympathy for after getting betrayed time and time and time again. I feel like it'd be fucking awesome. You could get a Rock. I don't know how likely it is that I don't even know what the Bloodline would look like in a year. But imagine a Rock and Solo tag team versus Roman and Seth. Moxley isn't coming back, and if he does, it won't be for a very long time. We're not getting that Shield triple threat. But imagine if We were to have Rollins and, like, I've always said the end game with those two should be a match. Like, they've been teasing Rollins and Roman for way too long to not do a match again at some point. I know they had a match 2 years ago that had a shitty finish and they never went back to it. The end game with those two should be reuniting. We have not seen Roman and Rollins on the same page in over 5 years. So getting them back on the same page, reuniting, at the end of the day, it's Shield, brethren, they're the ones that really align with each other. That would be the way to go. And having them take on Rock and Solo, and then you ultimately do Roman and Rock and Mania, one of the nights probably headlining, I would imagine. That's what I would like to say. I know I've talked nothing of the Rock promo itself, but it was just insult after insult, and I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was great, and the subtle, I'm talking more about like the subtle stuff and where we're going forward, as opposed to just the promo. But like the trailer park trash stuff, listen, I fucking loved it. If you didn't, that's fine. It was definitely nostalgia. It was definitely a nostalgia trip. But not for really me personally, because I wasn't watching 25 years ago. I was barely even alive 25 years ago. But I still thought it was cool that he kind of tapped into heel Rock for the first time in what felt like forever. Over 20 years, really, if we want to be specific here. What I'm saying is that I would like to see more of that heel Rock beyond the road to WrestleMania. I don't want to see him turn on Roman right away. I think you can get a lot more mileage out of heel Rock when he's not just hamming it up as a heel, doing the typical lines, wearing the Versace fucking vest and shit, the $500, $5,000 vest and whatever. I mean, he can, but you can do that for more than just a month and do it through Mania next year as well. And then heel Rock gets vanquished, and then he goes away. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. I would like to see like heel Rock and maybe heel Rock and Cody, heel Rock and Rollins, and he can't lose to everyone before Mania next year. I mean, that's going to hurt his worth in the ring and kind of diminish that win that Roman inevitably gets over Rock. I don't know if he beats Cody. That'd be kind of dumb as well. Maybe you just don't even do the match. I don't know. I'm just saying it would be cool if we get more of heel Rock beyond the road to WrestleMania. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if he's going to even be around, but that's what I would like to see personally. If he really wants to be a long gamer, that's the direction you go in. But I enjoyed SmackDown last night. I liked the Chamber qualifiers. Not a lot of like great matches, but we had some good matches. A very entertaining main event segment. A quick AOP squash and plenty of hype and build for Elimination Chamber next weekend and SmackDown next week. So like I said, they've already taped that show. They taped it right after SmackDown last night. So that will be airing on Friday of next week. And that'll be a fun show. I'm looking forward to watching that. No review, though, as is typically the case. With the pay-per-view airing so early on Saturday, I'm not reviewing SmackDown on Saturday. They probably are not doing a SmackDown Lowdown. Matt Camp got fired this week. I'll talk more about that in my SmackDown Lowdown review from today for tomorrow. It's going up tomorrow. No Collision tonight. Interesting. I'm not reviewing probably Collision anymore. I think I'm done with that. I enjoyed Collision, but it's not really worth reviewing at this point. It's just not really a significant show. It feels like Rampage 2.0. And I enjoy Collision, but it's probably not worth reviewing anymore. So my SmackDown Lowdown reviews will probably go up on Sundays moving forward. My point is, no SmackDown or SmackDown Lowdown review, very likely next weekend. Just keep a heads up on that. And I won't do an audio review of Elimination Chamber. We'll save that for WrestleRant Radio the following week. But I will be watching, probably reviewing it in written form for WrestleRant.com at some point that Saturday, if not, maybe on Sunday. So keep an eye out. Have a great one, guys. Thank you so much for checking out my SmackDown audio review. I appreciate it. A lot to talk about on the road to WrestleMania. A lot more to talk about in the weeks and months to come. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.